of the Nurturing Coach and creator of the Get Caught Ready program. And today I want to talk about the very painful but common phenomena that is false allegations within the family court system. So you're separated from your ex and you know that they're not an easy person. You've had a lot of problems with them, both during the relationship where you didn't feel valued, you were undermined consistently, you weren't ever quite sure what to expect, you're walking on eggshells, and you got out and you decide that, you need some protection for you and the kids. So you end up in the court process. Now, whether that be they've applied or you have. And then, boom, the bomb is dropped and they make an allegation against you. Now, these can range from being about your sort of neglecting the children, not being around for them, not being a present parent or an involved parent, all the way through to allegations of sexual abuse. And they are all equally damaging to the children and to the person that's being alleged to have done this thing. So one of the first things that I want to talk about is why make these sorts of allegations? Well, there's quite a few different reasons, really. One of them being that, yes, it is live. One of them being that they want to punish you for something that you either actually did or something that they are perceiving that you did. And this can be you triggered their abandonment wound. It can be that you made them feel inferior in some way just because you separated, that you let them down because you weren't the spouse or the partner that they thought you were going to be. It can be strategic, so it can be about getting the upper hand within court proceedings. It can be vengeful, so getting revenge on you for, like I say, whatever perceived thing that they think you've done wrong. It can also be something that is encouraged by people around them. It might not be that they've conceived this themselves. There are lots of different ways that false allegations come about. Usually with the cases I work on, it is a combination of those, and it kind of runs it's to do with their psychology. They have this false sense of self that is protected like this fragile egg. They have built up this false sense of self that they are untouchable. They, nothing can hurt them. They are brilliant and wonderful in all ways. Now, it's fragile because they know deep down within that egg that it is not true. They have never been made to feel like that since they were a child. And so as they have grown up, or, physically grown up, not mentally grown up, they have strengthened this egg by the way they treat other people. So they've always put other people down, they've put themselves on this pedestal, they've taken credit for things that other people have done, and this was all part of this development of that false sense of self. And so when divorce or separation happens, for all of us, it doesn't feel great. It makes us question, am I good enough? Am I a good person? What happened? Why did this relationship break down? Could I have done anything differently? They are normal, healthy questions to ask at the end of any relationship. But someone with a personality disorder can't do that, particularly the cluster B personalities. They can't do that. They can't look inside that egg at the truth. And so, boom, they project everything out. They blame everyone for their pain. So it's a very real pain that they are feeling. And they have this thought process with, I feel really bad, therefore you must have done something really bad to me. And their mind concocts or twists some version of reality to fit that inner narrative. Okay, I will come back to that question. Let me just finish the explanation around how and why it happens. So with personality disordered parents, a lot of it is about that protection, of themselves. It is making sure that people see only the outside of the egg, this very protected version of them being wonderful, rather than that fragile inner version that is actually, it's there because they're hurting. They've split up with someone, things are changing, and so the pain is real, but it's projected out wrong. What we also find is it triggers 3 responses within them. So it is their abandonment wound, which is part of like the borderline personality, which is, you left me, how dare you leave me, I'm not worthy, but therefore you're not worthy, it must be your fault, you must have done something wrong, don't let, no one else can ever leave me, so therefore I've got to blame everyone else. The inferiority trigger, which is, I'm the best, I've got to be the best in this situation, and so I'm going to put you down so that I can elevate myself, both as a person and as a parent. And then the final one is this transgenerational trauma, which is they probably experienced something very similar, certainly abuse within their own childhood, and they're trying to protect it by being the victim and the hero in this situation. So often false allegations are used in child arrangement order proceedings here in the UK, but obviously whatever the equivalent is abroad for those of you that are international. And they're designed to cause the most damage. They're designed to, like say, elevate them and make you out to be this awful, dangerous parent. And there's levels of those false allegations. So the most serious ones are those abuse ones. So domestic abuse, emotional abuse, coercive control, psychological abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse of them, of the children. But there's also the allegations under that as well, which are that you aren't around, you haven't been around for the kids, that you're not been involved with their school matters, that you've not done X, Y, and Z. So there's the bigger ones, and then there's those smaller, lower level false allegations, but they're all part of that same psychological pattern for them. So the question Jerry has asked is, how do we point this out to CAFCAS or courts without being, well, unfortunately, the term high conflict they use when 2 parents have a very different point of view. And when one parent is lying and the other person isn't, of course you're going to have opposing views. So you can't avoid the label per se. In terms of how you go about proving it's not high conflict, that happens over time. It is about you showing through your evidence, through your demeanor and behavior within the courts, through having a more balanced perspective, not being black and white as they are. And so the more you do that within the court process over time, then they will start to see who's really bringing the conflict. And one of the ways I kind of describe it to clients is, if you've ever seen a paranormal show, TV show or film, you've always got the person at the start who sees the activity, whether that be cupboards opening or an apparition or whatever it may be, and they tell someone and they get told, okay, I think you're a bit crazy, did you have enough sleep, are you sure you're okay, do you need any mental health support? And the more that person says, no, it is a ghost, and they see it again and something happens and they tell them again, no, it's really, there's something going on, it's a ghost or a poltergeist, the crazier everyone else thinks they are. The only time that people actually believe that there is some paranormal activity going on is when they experience it for themselves. And so part of my work with clients and part of the Get Caught Ready program is, how do you get to reveal the ghost? How do you manage your evidence, your behavior, your demeanor, which will then trigger them? So it's like the 3-pronged approach. It's your evidence has to be bang on, the way you present it, the themes that you present, the countering allegations, the using of allegations as part of your own strategy, how you personally present it. So you make sure you present it as being calm and balanced, and you've got, you've managed your triggers, so you're emotionally regulated. And what that does is it really dysregulates your ex, who, boom, reveals their truth and the truth of who they are in front of everyone to see. But that takes time. And part of it is you've got to get the strategy right at the start. And that's difficult when you're faced straight away with these allegations, because on the one hand, you've got to defend them. You've also got, this, for men particularly, but obviously this happens to women as well. You've got this argument that if they make an allegation, then you make a counter allegation, then actually that's just you being abusive and not taking responsibility for your actions. But actually, you have to make your point, and it's how you make your point, how you point out your experience without then being labeled as being high conflict, or my personal not favorite, parental conflict. So yeah, but it's very frustrating, and they're designed to be as disruptive as possible, because if someone who wants to destroy you, wants to destroy your relationship with your child, wants to gain control and momentum of the case, then, sorry, I've missed a load. Let me just go back. Okay, there we go. So, yeah, they do. It does throw off from their behaviour. It's very much smoke and mirrors. Don't look at me, look over there. Again, I call it the eye of Mordor. So they looking, and then they get diverted by all the false allegations, and they're then, all eyes are on you. And so if they want to destroy you in any way, shape or form, false allegations are the fastest way to do that, because they can destroy your job, they can destroy your financial situation, meaning you're less able to fight them through the court process. You're less likely, you certainly will have a break in your relationship with your child, at which point they can start really ramping up alienating behaviors and turning that child against you, so that even if the allegations are then proven to be unfounded, you've then got the battle of winning your child back around, showing to court and to Kafkas, okay, this is all, manipulated. This child has been manipulated to reject me, and the false allegations were all part of that. They were, if you think of it from a criminal perspective, they were the diversionary tactics to then turn the child against you. And so false allegations have a real detrimental effect on the whole court process. They slow it down. They interfere with the functioning of it. They create more conflict, and it becomes incredibly he said, she said, which is why fact findings can be so important as part of the strategy of this, so that you can get to the bottom of what's real and what's not. Again, the thing about a lot of the allegations that are made is it's situational, so there's probably very little proof. So saying someone is psychologically abusive, it's over a period of time. You've got to be able to evidence all of that. And unfortunately, courts don't often have the time to do that. So they just, they will take, and these people are very convincing because they believe it themselves. They genuinely believe that, like I said, the pain inside them is real. They're just mislabeling it and saying it's your fault, rather than going, actually, this is something else. I need to deal with the pain inside me. I need to, get therapy or whatever. They are going, it's you've made me feel this way. You must have done something. And because the court or Kafkas only see the pain, and naturally, when we see someone in pain, we believe there must be something happened because to cause this much pain, then people go along with that. So false allegations they call it the silver bullet, because boom, case is injured at the very least. And so it's being aware of that. So a lot of the work I do with clients is around preparing for that. So before we get into court, preparing for the allegations that are going to come, figuring out what they are going to look like, and making sure you have evidence to contradict that, to prove that it is a false allegation, but also then to use those false allegations as part of your own strategy to prove the bigger picture. And so, yeah, that is the work that I tend to do. And a lot of the work that I do is with, in fact, I think probably 99% of the cases that I work with involve false allegations. And so it is such a big fact, hence why I wanted to talk about it today. So, yeah, false allegations are complex. They are designed to deliberately disrupt not just the process, but the relationship between you and your child. They very often involve someone with a cluster B personality disorder, so borderline, narcissistic, antisocial, or histrionic. They are all designed to protect their false sense of self so that they are seen as being all good and you as being all bad. And it allows them the time and space to then alienate the children by creating the role reversal dynamic whereby the child picks up on the pain and tries to fix it or blames you for the pain in the same way. And they control the reality of the child with the basic things, sort of everyday things, through gaslighting and conditioning. And so eventually when they do start making these allegations against you, the child has already been primed to know that that parent's view is the only one I should be listening to. And obviously when there's a gap in contact, that is literally the only point of view that they are hearing. So children can then be conditioned and controlled to make their own allegations, because their brain has been distorted. They have what it's called a shared persecutory delusion, whereby the persecutory delusion, i.e. your ex is saying, this has happened, this person is abusive towards me, they have this delusion that these things have happened. They then share that with the child, and under the DSM, that is considered a shared persecutory delusion. Now, again, these are all difficult concepts. I'm not asking you, and you certainly shouldn't try and use these terminologies within the family court process because they don't understand them. And you've got to let the evidence do the talking for itself. You've got to be able to prove almost sort of along the timeline and how this has been a gradual process of behaviors. So the undermining of you as a person and as a parent, the control that they start to implement on the child, the restriction of autonomy of the child, so that they start to think like they become almost co-narcissistic, but they think the same way. And then the allegation. So it's been able to prove across a timeline this shift in all those behaviors. And I'm not saying any of this is easy, far from it. The work that I do and the whole purpose of setting up Get Court Ready was to, and I've literally just described this to a client, is when you're about to start a 100-meter race, false allegations mean they've already run 50 meters before the gun's even gone off. So you're already behind. Get Court Ready is about making sure you at least go off at the same time. So then, you got to run the race yourself. And it's about that preparedness for allegations, for the tactics that they use, understanding their weaknesses so we can start to incorporate that into a strategy to poke the bear, to reveal the ghost. So yeah, with false allegations, the way I tend to work with clients is I take the allegation, whether that be what they've told someone else, so someone else's report, Then we go through what they've said, what you say, and what that difference might mean. So the difference between the two. So we're pulling out, has this been assessed for? Have you considered this? Have we looked at this? Is this a proportionate response? Is there any evidence to support this? All those kind of things through each allegation. I take that analysis of each one. So Jerry, so they alienate. So I'm guessing that very little was done after the first time alienation was proven, i.e. there was very little intervention to allow it to then happen again. Again, this is a failing on the part of the courts, is to understand that this person isn't going to change. This person is not going to suddenly go, oh, okay, yeah, I'm not going to harm my kid. I'm not going to do this. It's harmful. It's dangerous. I'm suddenly going to become, co-parent of the year. They're not. They're just going to keep doing it because they believe it. You're dealing with someone who believes what they're telling themselves, and you can't change that without long-term therapeutic intervention, working with a psychologist or a psychiatrist to identify those distorted thought patterns, those cognitive distortions that have led to this situation. And courts don't grasp that. They don't understand what those more severe cases really mean, both in terms of the court process, but also more importantly for the children, because the children are having their reality questioned and controlled all the time. And that doesn't just affect their relationship with the alienated parent. It affects their whole relationship, most importantly, the relationship they have with themselves. Yeah. And it's just like, I find that one of the most frustrating things within the court, and there's lots to be frustrated about, but one of the ones is the identification of alienation, but the failure to do anything about it. Like if we identified that, someone had been beating someone, but saying, please stop doing that. Okay, off you go. And without any understanding of the fact of why they did it in the first place, what was going on. They don't recognize it as a psychological issue that is not going to change just because court. I can't work out whether it's because the court's ego is like, we said we are so omnipotent that you will change your behavior just because we told you so, or whether it's just a complete lack of understanding. And it's fairness, it's probably a bit of both, isn't it? That they just don't understand the long-term impact on the children. And I'm not going to lie, it's incredibly complicated for resolution in terms of what an awful position that the children are in, that they have a parent that they're being told is a monster, and yet they don't necessarily remember that themselves. But equally, they've got this other parent that they live with the majority of the time, if not all the time, who is so controlling that they have no freedom, but they're still their parents. And as humans, we naturally need our parents. It's part of the attachment process, which, goes into why people, particularly social workers, should question more the rejection of a parent, because we just don't naturally do that. We are designed to need our caregivers because of survival instincts. And so when that is suppressed, when our natural attachment process is suppressed, that's massive cause for concern, because again, it's just not natural for us to do that. But yeah, for these children, the two people that were supposed to love and protect them are not able to do that. One through their own actions and their own distortions, and the other through the actions and distortions of that parent and the court process. And so the child is just left in this environment where they're just not going to trust. They're going to develop the same psychological disorders whether that be, narcissistic or borderline, or whether, some other mental health disorder, but they're going to have real issues with trusting themselves. They're going to have a lot of issues with shame. They're going to have a lot of issues with independence because they've been so controlled. And then anger, for the ones that do start to twig, there's a lot of anger. Again, a lot of shame and guilt about how they've treated the other parent, the alienated parent. It's just such a frigging mess. And like I say, false allegations, to get back to the point of the video, false allegations play such an integral part of this, both in terms of the initial firing of the gun, the initial bullet, and then with the ongoing process of alienation in encouraging children to then make false allegations, or at very least supporting the allegations. So yeah, if you are dealing with allegations, I have put together a fact sheet which I will pop in the comments below once this is processed. I've also written numerous blogs on false allegations, which again I will pop them in the comments as well. There are ways that you can approach this. It is not easy, but with the right people who understand the psychology as well as the legal implications. By the way, I'm not a solicitor, so just to clarify, my background is social work and personal experience, and coaching and counselling. So that's where I'm coming from. But the work that I do with clients is about preparing them and developing strategy to face all of the behaviour. So the DARVO behaviour, the deny, attack, reverse victim and offender role that is evident in parental alienation, alienating behaviours, how to prove them, how to organise their evidence, how to counter false allegations and analyse, what's going on. That's the work that I do, either through the Get Caught Ready program, which is just £57. It's a walkthrough. You get to do it with me, doing videos like this with you, or you get to work one-to-one with me. But like I say, I'll pop the information for the resources below. Thank you so much for watching, those of you that have been part of this, and take care of yourself.